Thank you, Brendan. Good evening, everyone. And again, I want to thank Focus Springfield for their efforts. I know Brendan and Josue and the whole team that were able to be in person and also remote participation. This evening, we have student representatives, and I also believe that School Committee Woman Denise Hurst and School Committee Woman Latonia Naylor will be participating remotely. We send our warm wishes out to School Committee Member Josiah Gonzalez for a speedy recovery, and he'll be back soon. He sends his regrets. So first on the list is Zanetti Montessori, and I know it'll be a proud evening to Ryland Murphy, which is attorney, school committee member, attorney Peter Murphy's son, but he might be at football practice, so we'll see what happens there. Colin Shea and Gabby Casey, and they're supported by their principal, Tara Clark, and teacher and soccer coach, Kelly Shea. So if they'd like to, I don't know if Principal Clark or Coach Shea would like to go first, and then we'll start with the student speakers, please. Okay. I see it. I see it. So I was a crazy goalie in my high school, college days, so okay, we see it. You'll make it work. Okay, Coach. So Colin, are you ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay, you're up. Who's that in the background over there?
Ryland.
Oh, it is right there. There he is. I thought it was you. Look at you guys getting chauffeured around. Murph, how do you like this? Getting chauffeured around. Okay, so Colin, are you going first, or is Ryland going first?
I'm going first.
And who's driving the car, for Christ's sakes? Okay, I know. I'm just kidding. Okay, Ryland, your dad's very proud. Go right ahead. You got big.
All right. So, we're going to talk about the positive impact of middle school sports. Since we began middle school, we've been under COVID restrictions, but school sports gave us something to look forward to. We could socialize and be active. Almost all of our middle school students gets active in middle school sports, which have been volleyball and 2 soccer seasons. Most students play both. But a lot of students come and watch our games and help the coaches with management or scoreboards. Middle school sports have created a great community at our school.
Very good, Ryan. I don't know if your dad would like to say, I don't know, Attorney Murphy, would you like to say a few words, Dad?
Right.
I guess that was a few words. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
You did a great job, Ryan. It's great. In middle school, sports is great for our kids. So thank you, guys. And thank you, Ms. Shea, Colin.
Your dad's been a big advocate for middle school sports.
I'm glad we were able to bring it back some years ago. Okay, so, Ryland, good job. I guess Colin is up. You ready, Colin?
Yeah.
Don't sound so excited.
Aside from sports creating a special community at our school, it's helped students be healthier, work harder academically to keep up their grades.
You're doing fine. You're doing fine.
Having weekly practices plus games helped us do more than usual, especially during our 6th to 7th grade years. Our coaches have us condition and learn to play at the same time. The team building exercises also made us meet new kids in different grade levels and create many new bonding experiences both on the field and during the day at school when we see each other. Sports have helped a lot of the students academically, usually because coaches have their higher expectations of them. They may need a team grade to play or a certain grade to play middle school sports have benefited me.
You're egging each other on. I can see already there. You're doing fine.
Exactly.
Middle school sports have benefited me.
She's going to
And my
make you run
class-
laps, you know. After you get
And my
done with this, she's going to
classmates.
make you run laps. I'm telling you right now. Both of you.
Thank you to our coaches, plus parents for providing a good experience for us.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you, Coach. Thanks, Coach. Thank you, Coach. Thanks, Kelly.
Mayor,
Oh, yes. Yes, go right ahead, Attorney Murphy. Oh,
But they had a football game yesterday,
Yeah.
Bloomfield, Connecticut. They won. It was a tough game. They played great. Colin and Rylan
all right.
both played great. And, they also play for the soccer team and the volleyball team.
Very good.
And, it's really great what we're doing and what they're talking about. So
The Patriots could have used you Monday night, by the way. Thank you, Attorney Murphy. Thank you to Rylan Murphy, Colin Shea, and Coach Shea there. Thank you very, very much. Okay, Gabby Casey. Is Gabby Casey up?
Yes. Hi.
And you tell your grandmother, Judy, 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 I said hello, okay?
I will. Good evening, Mayor Sarno, Superintendent Warwick, and school committee members and staff. My name is Gabby Casey, and I'm an 8th grader at Zanetti Middle School. Over the past few years, we have built a new PBIS incentive system at our school. I'm here today because I'd like to tell you how it works. Each week, we get a piece card. On Monday, on that card, we write our name, our class, our grade, and the goal. We are responsible for keeping that card all week long, which shows responsibility. Throughout the day, teachers make sure to notice students who are following our ROAR expectations. Some of these expectations include remaining safe, being on task, being accountable, and showing responsibility. When students follow these expectations, we earn a piece punches on the card. Each week, we are required to earn at least 25 piece points to make it to our Peace Day celebration on Friday afternoon. Students who have the most peace points get to choose what room they go to first. In the rooms, we are mixed with each middle school grade, so you get to socialize with the younger students and establish new great relationships. You are in the Peace Celebration room for 20 minutes during the activity for that room you choose. Some examples of the weekly celebrations include music and dance, drum circle, board and card games, organized games outside or in the gym, Legos, different science activities, art, and movies. Students work hard to follow the expectations and be responsible to earn their spot at Peace Day each week. When they get peace points, it helps encourage students who are always doing the right thing and to continue doing that, and it helps struggling students to see a good model of the correct way to act.
Nice job,
Like-
Gabby.
Nice job,
Good job, Gab.
Gabby. Way to go. Nice job. Hi, Principal Clark. How you doing, Tara?
Hi, good evening. They did a good job.
They all did. Thank you. Thank you very much to Zanetti Montessori School. Now we'll move to Springfield Day Middle School. Avery Medeiros, supported by Linda Singer, Assistant Principal, and Bethany Smith, teacher, please.
Hi. Hi, my name is Avery, and today I will be talking about two of my projects as a part of the project-based learning system at Springfield Public Day Middle School. My first project that I will be talking about is about the Minecraft project for math. For this assignment, we had to design the Minecraft house on paper and tell the scale factor of it by the length and the height of it. And then we measured the scale factor. And for my second project, we'll be talking about when we interviewed the students of the North Pole Middle School. in Alaska, we had to ask them 10 questions about how the school is, and when they gave us an answer, we would either make a PowerPoint presentation or a narrative-based story on their responses. When I interviewed Elizabeth and she gave me all of her answers for her questions, I decided to make a PowerPoint from her answers, and now in December they're going to be interviewing us about our school.
Very good, Avery. Thank you, Avery. Nice job. I'm sure you're looking forward to those interviews. Back to you. Springfield Middle School is in the house. Maya Galalis, and supported by Linda Singer, assistant principal, and Garnett Ankle, teacher. Maya?
My camera isn't working, but hello, my name is Mia, but I
I'm
like to be
sorry.
called Mimi. I am a 7th grade student at Springfield Middle School. Here at Springfield Middle School, they have small classes and I get a lot of attention from my teachers, especially Mr. Ankle. He helps me with my work a lot. It's hard for me to get work done and focus in a big school. I get much better grades here at Springfield Middle School. We have PBIS here. I especially like the school store and Fun Friday. Thank you.
Nice
Good
job,
night.
Mia. Thank you. And to finish it up, we're going to have the South End Middle School, and proud to say Superintendent Warwick and I were there. I think it was last Thursday or Friday. MGM and President and COO Chris Kelly, their business partner. We had nutritious breakfast served with the students. Students helped out. And Bob Bolduc, recently retired from Pride, is partnering with the South End Middle School. And Yara Gonzalez, principal, she's done a wonderful job there. But Anna Lee Rojas is in the house. And I don't know if Principal Gonzalez, Yara, if you want to say anything before Anna Lee comes on board.
I do. Good evening, Mayor Sarno. Good evening, Superintendent Warwick and school committee members. I am so proud to introduce Anaya Lee Rojas. She's an 8th grade student at South End Middle School. Anaya Lee actually moved to Springfield in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic while we were remote. And in her time at South End Middle School, she's really thrived. So we are really proud of her. Anaya Lee's joyful disposition and attention to her academics have really earned her the respect of her peers and her teachers alike. So we are excited and proud to have her represent South End Middle School this evening.
Thank you, Principal Gonzalez. Anna Lee?
Hi.
How are
Hello, my name
you?
is Anaya Lee Rojas. I'm an 8th grade scholar at South End Middle School. This year is different. We have had a big change in staff. Our principal and assistant principal are new to the building and taking student ideas into consideration, setting up new programs and trying new things at South End. We also have new teachers, bringing not only fresh faces, but fresh energy and new instructional styles. Our teachers are explaining things in a way that we can learn and grow. South End is an older building, but there's a new feeling there. This year, as we get closer to normal and manage the pandemic more safely, South End is restarting our sports and activities. Right now, our soccer team is back in action after 2 years. It's exciting to see kids going to practice and hyped up for games with other schools. Our basketball team will return next, followed by volleyball. I'm definitely signing up for the volleyball team. Our extracurricular activities are returning as well. All of our teachers are available for after-school help with classes throughout the week, even art. We will have a mock trial club arguing cases with Miss Christian. Miss Guy, our art teacher, will have kids making arts and crafts each week. Mr. Yaboa, our technology teacher, is organizing a mentoring program to bring adults to individually mentor students throughout the semester. Ms. Gonzalez, our new principal, is developing the first student council at South End. I've been pushing this idea since she first mentioned it, and I'm excited to be involved. We will give students a voice in organizing events and making decisions for the student body. Bringing student ideas to life seems to fit with the new energy at South End. South End made the news. South End is being adopted by the MGM Casino in a partnership to deepen our learning and provide exciting new experiences to expand our perspectives.
The executive chef from the MGM brought his team to South End to demonstrate safe cooking and healthy eating, which cooked up a tasty result. Our school shared in delicious fruit smoothies alongside a gourmet breakfast sandwich. Everyone at South End is excited to see what the future holds with this partnership. As an eighth grader, I am excited to start the process of high school choice, to learn more about the schools, their teams, and activities. Our working class each day is preparing us for this important transition, and this new team at South End is energizing me and my classmates to try new things, work hard, and find success. For myself, I am interested in pursuing the culinary arts program at Putnam. Who knows, maybe I'll be an executive chef presented to the next generation of South students.
All right, Ms. Rojas, great job. Great job. Thank you. Thank you, Principal Gonzalez. That concludes our student representative update, and we'll take a little recess. We'll be back for our formal meeting at 6:30. You're more than welcome to stay. Good health and God bless and continued success.
Thank you and have a good night.
Good evening, and thank you for watching. We'll call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll? Just for point of information, School Committee Woman Latonia Naylor will be remotely participating.
Present.
Again, as I mentioned in the student presentations, School Committeeman Josiah Gonzalez sends his regrets, and we wish him a speedy recovery. I know he'll be back in the saddle again very shortly. So, Josiah, we all wish you good health and a speedy recovery.
Present.
Ms. Hurst, again, is going to be participating remotely, and we'll have a clarification of that. If Attorney Phelps can give that clarification right now for the remote participation, and then we'll continue with the roll call. Thank you, Attorney Phelps.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The governor's emergency order with regards to the open meeting law was extended through March 31st, 2023, which allows public bodies to have members participate remotely and in person, hybrid combination, or entirely remotely. So tonight there are 2 members that would be participating remotely. They do have to answer with regards to the roll call and be counted as attending the meeting in order to qualify. But we are in compliance with the open meeting law. Despite the school committee's remote participation policy, the governor's emergency order trumps that until March 31st, 2023.
Thank you, Attorney Phelps. And Denise, I hope your son is feeling better, too.
Thank you, Mayor.
Continue the roll call, please. Ms. Hurst?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Present.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Collins?
Here.
Mayor Sarno?
Present. And we're going to rise from the moment of silence and pledge allegiance. And the moment of silence will be dedicated to 3 individuals this evening. One is our retired Veterans Director and proud Marine, Dan Walsh. Also, we lost a student from the Conservatory of the Arts, and our thoughts and prayers go out to the family members and students. And then we lost a very dedicated retired school department employee, all teacher, assistant principal, phys ed director, a veteran pilot, Henry Clay, that we just received notice that Henry had passed away. A good guy. So a moment of silence for those 3 individuals. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We'll now move to the approval of the minutes. Approve the minutes of the October 13th, 2022 School Committee regular session. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Vice Chair Collins. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Gresham. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Monroe Naylor? Absent. Attorney Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez? Absent. Ms. Gresham?
Yes.
Ms. Hurst?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mayor Sarno?
Yes, more than sufficient vote. This matter passes. Thank you. Section 3, voting items. There are none for this evening. Section 4, informational discussion items, and we'll have the presentation of the strategic plan update. Superintendent Warwick, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to turn it over to Paul Foster. Paul has done a great job as the point person leading this effort. And the team that worked on this, I just want to thank all of them, community members and our departmental team that worked on this plan for the last 3 years. Most of the time we were under the pandemic, but kept it going forward. And not only did they engage in a wonderful process, contacting thousands of community members to get their input, but also they produced a great product for us to move forward. We're excited about this process because unlike our last strategic plans, this approach, the portrait of a graduate, really focuses on our kids and them being successful in college and career and as productive citizens when they graduate. So it's that student-centric approach that I think is special. Because it's so special, the Bar Foundation has funded over $1 million to support the effort and is touting it nationally. But kudos to the great team, community members, and our staff that worked on it. But a special word of thanks to Paul Foster, who really has led the effort during really trying times during the pandemic. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Paul to present the plan, which we finished off, and now we're in the implementation phase. Paul?
You're up, staffs.
Thank you. Good evening. Nice to be with you. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Great. So as the superintendent said, we've made the pivot from developing a portrait of a graduate and a strategic plan to beginning the implementation. And as you know, this was written as a 6-year plan because, the work that we're talking about in the strategic plan is significant work, and we didn't want to shortchange it and treat it like it was something that could be done in a year. So largely what I'm going to share with you tonight is a brief overview of the work that is underway in the 22-23 school year as we begin this implementation of the strategic plan. And so I'll just give you a real quick reminders about the content of the plan. And the focus of this plan, as the superintendent talked about, is students envisioning and achieving their success. And I think we all really like leading with students and leading with students as the kind of authors and actors who are settling on their vision and working to achieve their success with our support. And you can see the mission listed there. I won't read it to you, but you can see the elements of our mission as part of this strategic plan: partnership with family and community, empowering our educators, prioritizing the reimagining of teaching and learning, empowering our students, and at the end of this, ensuring, as the superintendent said, our students are ready for success in college, career, and life. And this, as you've seen many times, is the portrait of a graduate with our 6 pillars of learn, communicate, persist, thrive, lead, and work. And this is our strategic plan, or I should say this is the visual summary of our strategic plan, with the 4 kind of key elements being our core values, which define how we work. So asset-oriented, people-centered, and equity-driven. Our principles of reimagined instruction that define how we teach. And so that's really about what happens in every classroom every day. Our strategies, and you see reimagine schooling, prioritize well-being, expand partnerships, empower educators, and transform systems. That's the work of the next 6 years. And then, of course, in the center is our goal, students realizing that community-created vision of what our students should know and be able to do. And so the principles, as I just talked about, you see them here, the principles defining how we teach. And so really, when you look at these phrases, what we're talking about is when, as we move through the implementation of this strategic plan, what do we want to see in classrooms when we walk into classrooms in the Springfield schools? And so, again, I won't read all of this to you, but we want to see students exploring essential questions and making meaning of the world around them. We want students engage in activities that build on their strengths, that empower them to set their own goals and reach those goals. We want culturally responsive instruction where students see themselves in the curriculum and feel like school is helping them develop their identity and their critical lens on the world. Collaborative environments, and joyful and meaningful learning. We want to see students who are productively struggling, making those real world connections, engaging in projects. So within the strategic plan, there's a lot on this slide, but within the strategic plan, we have those 5 strategies I talked about. And for each of those strategies, there's a set of initiatives. And so what the main thing I want to share with you tonight is some of the initiatives where the work has already started, and just make sure you're aware of the work that's underway. So you see the initiatives here, and there's obviously detail on this within the plan itself, but you can see all the initiatives that come under those 5 strategies. And the initiatives you see underlined here are, it's not that we're making moves on all of the initiatives in the 22-23 school year, but the initiatives you see underlined are areas where the work is focused this year, because again, it's a 6-year plan. We can't do everything all at once. That would, especially coming out of a pandemic when we have exhausted educators and students and families who frankly are exhausted as well. And so we need to take the right amount of time to do this work well. So what I'm going to do, sorry, for the rest of the presentation, what I'm going to share with you is just for a few of these priority initiatives, a little bit of what is the work that's being undertaken in the 22-23 school year. And we'll certainly over the course of the year come back to you and share some updates on other initiatives where there's work underway to execute the strategic plan. So one of those, it's the very first initiative in the strategic plan, which is reimagining instruction through school cohorts. And the idea here is the Portrait of a Graduate lays out a vision of what we want our students to know and be able to do when they graduate high school. But the actual change has to happen at the building level in terms of how we do teaching and learning to support students to develop the knowledge and skills you see in the portrait. And so the strategic plan recognizes that, and we have schools are going to participate in a cohort at some point over the term of the strategic plan, where they engage in their own school-based process to take the Portrait of a Graduate and think about how do they execute it? How do they change and reimagine instruction to support students to realize the portrait? So you can see on here the 16 schools that are currently part of this work. We have a cohort 1 that started last year, a cohort 2 that started this year. And at the bottom of the slide, you can see some examples of some of the work that these schools are undertaking. So some of the schools are doing more project-based learning, which just means more hands-on learning. Kids are doing interdisciplinary projects where they're touching on multiple subjects at once while doing something hands-on that's really connected to their lives, connected to the real world. You see expanded social emotional learning activities. We have some cohort schools who are thinking hard about in the elementary level, how do you use morning meeting to support social emotional growth? Teacher designed electives in the 11th and 12th grade, shifting to performance-based assessment. So those are just some examples of what cohort schools are thinking about. The next initiative that's a priority for this year is alternate curriculum pacing and use of time. So just for those who are viewing, pacing is very edu-speak, but what we're talking about is how the curriculum is delivered over the course of the year. So what's happening in September and October of the year in math class or in social studies or in science class. And we've convened teams. These teams have already been assembled of principals, assistant principals, teachers, district curriculum folks who are charged with thinking about alternate pacing that's going to prioritize some of those bullets you see in the middle of the slide. So this idea of depth of learning. So there's a lot of standards in the Massachusetts curriculum, but we don't want to just try to get the same level of coverage of everything. We want kids to have the chance to feel like experts, go deep in some areas. Thinking about that project-based and interdisciplinary work and the connection between learning and real world application. So it's not changing our curriculum, it's changing how we use our curriculum. And the kind of activities we engage our students in. And so you can see we have 54 educators. I want to say for this initiative and one of the other ones I'll talk about, we're also working closely with DIRE, which is the Diversity, Inclusion, and Racial Equity Partnership between the SEA and the district, and making sure that we have representation from the DIRE teams on the teams that are working on implementing the Portrait of a Graduate. Another initiative that is we're beginning to focus on this school year is what's called a primary person. Again, this is sort of edu-speak. But what we're really talking about here is having a structured process in every school through which every student has an adult who is kind of their advisor mentor, who they meet with regularly to talk about their academic progress, their social emotional needs, set goals, reflect on their goals. And so you can think of this, some of our schools have crew, some of our schools have advisories. It's that kind of thing, but with structured activities to support students setting and reflecting on the achievement of their goals. And so what we're doing this year is working to develop a set of expectations based on best practice in other communities and other districts to think about what would be the expectations for a school's primary person model, right? What are expectations for how often students meet with their advisor mentor? Another initiative that's underway this year is redesigning grading. This is a big topic. And grading, obviously, this is something we want to engage deeply with families. We want to engage deeply with students because grading matters to people. And we want to move towards mastery-based grading, meaning we want to make sure that the grade students received is connected to their achievement of proficiency and mastery in the curriculum, not in the curriculum, sorry, in the standards. We want to make sure that our grades are reflective of, are you achieving mastery in these areas? And we also want to make sure we have part of our grading system that's reflecting our students achieving the competencies you see in the portrait of a graduate. And you can see some examples on the slide of some of the things. So again, we have teams already assembled at elementary, middle, and high, starting to think about this work. Again, partnering with Dyer. And you can see one of the bullets you see here is opportunities for students to revise and resubmit. Many of our teachers already do this. It's pretty standard practice in education. But we want to make sure our grading system really prioritizes, if it's about mastery, we want to make sure that students, if they don't get it right the first time, we make sure we're prioritizing giving them a chance to try again. Right? That's how we're going to cultivate and teach the persistence that you see in our portrait of a graduate. Another example of what you often see in other districts' mastery-based grading systems is the idea that your final grade is not just a weighted average of or not just an average of everything you did over the course of the year. Because if you do that, something you did on the first day of school counts as much as something you did on the last day of school. But if we're focused on mastery, even if a student really struggled in the start of the year, if they've mastered the standards by the end of the year, that's what their grade should reflect. So that's the kind of thing that our teams focus on grading are talking about. And then the last thing I'll share with you is we're also working on measurement. Of course, as we implement the strategic plan, we're going to continue to measure the indicators we've always measured: MCAS, attendance, all of the other things you saw in the superintendent's year in review report last meeting. But we're also thinking about other forms of data that we want to start making more use of. We've done student surveys for a while, but we want to fold that into our measurement systems more fully, where we're asking students and families, do they feel like they belong at school? They feel welcome at school? And then really we want to get into that classroom learning experience. They feel like what they're learning is connected to who they are as a person, is helping them develop the skills they need for later life. And so we're going to focus on that. And the idea is we'd like to first implement a first round of surveys for students and families across the district this school year. And so that's really that's a quick overview of the work, some of the work. I should say there's other initiatives we've already started working on this year as well. But that's a quick overview of some of the initiatives that are underway as we begin the implementation of the strategic plan.
Thank you, Paul. Stats, any questions or comments, please?
I have,
Ms. Gresham, and then I'll go to Attorney Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor.
thank you. Thank you, Paul. So with engaging families, will that be just through survey, or will you be meeting with parents or families? What would that look like?
I think both, to be honest, and Jose Escribano, who's leading the new office, Family and Community Engagement Office, I think we'll be doing a lot with that work. But we certainly, I'll use grading for example. We're going to want to have meetings with parents to talk about grading. So what works for them, about when they get the report card, what works about that, what's challenging about that, how So as we talk about these changes to things like grading systems, we want to have meetings with families so we're getting their feedback on it.
Okay, and my next question is, so in the first cohorts, right, when will you get the feedback on those schools?
Feedback in terms of whether the reimagining is kind of working, is that?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're reviewing the cohort process as a minimum 3-year process because, we're talking about reimagining teaching and learning. And so I think our first cohort started last year. So I would say as we get into not this school year, but next school year, then we're going to really want to start thinking about the data and thinking about how have the changes that have been made in these cohort 1 schools started to have an impact on student outcomes.
But it started 21, 22, right? So you'll get the feedback next year, you're saying?
I mean, we're collecting feedback all the time, certainly. But in terms of, we don't want to start I'll use the word evaluate. We don't want to start evaluating the success of the reimagining work they're doing until their 3rd year as a cohort school, because I think this work takes significant time because we want them to engage with their parents, their students, their educators, and really do this work in a thoughtful way. And so we don't want to start again, I'll use the word evaluation. We don't want to start evaluating the success of their cohort work until they've had time to really put down roots in the work they're trying to do.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gresham. Attorney Murphy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Paul. You're not listening to music on that, on your headphones, are you?
I don't think so.
One thing I just wanted to ask about the plan is the mental health issues, that have existed and were maybe neglected and then exacerbated by COVID, and whether or not we've put enough resources into that for our kids. It does say in your plan that we're going to, or in the strategic plan, we're going to collaborate with mental health providers. Could you just expand a little bit on that and to ensure that we're putting enough resources into that area?
Sure. I mean, and that initiative within the prioritized well-being strategy is really, it's specifically, right, it says collaborate with local mental health providers, because that's one of those areas where it's not something we can do alone. And one of the things, but we heard it loud and clear. I feel like in every meeting as we were developing the strategic plan, whether it was community partners, parents, students, the issue of mental health, and to be totally honest, the issue of a mental health system in Western Massachusetts that's not currently addressing the needs that our families and students have came up in every conversation. And so I think where that initiative comes from is, it's, and we've always, Superintendent Marianne Morris and others for years have worked to engage with the mental health system to make sure it's working in the best interest of meeting the needs of our students and family. So I think that initiative in the plan is memorializing and saying we need to double down on that work to partner with mental health providers. We heard some of the feedback we heard from community members was about access to mental health services, what hours of the day you can access it, whether it's happening in locations families can get to. We heard just numerous things like that. And so that initiative is very much about, I'll defer to the superintendent on your question about resources, but certainly what the plan is talking about is we need to double down on engaging with the mental health community and have real conversations about the fact that there is not enough support for our students and families around their mental health needs.
And we've really doubled the
Thank
staffing
you,
for that
thank
in
you, Paul.
schools. So not only do we have counseling staff in every school, now we have City Connects, and the City Connects folks are the ones who write the plans, take a look at it, and connect the kids to the outside counseling services. So we've provided a lot of extra staff for that, and as well as that, each school now is getting all the SOA and ESSER money. So if they want to supplement those staffing levels, they're doing that as part of their plan. So they're looking at that money and providing the academic supports, but also the extra social emotional supports for these families and kids. So we've put a lot of resources into it, and a lot of resources into the outreach to the mental health network, so to make sure people are getting the services they need.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you.
Yes, go
Can we
ahead.
have the clerk recognize Committeewoman Naylor? She's
was
in, she didn't want to disrupt the flow.
Madam Clerk, if you could please recognize School Committee Woman Latonia Naylor. Thank you, Latonia. Any other questions or comments? I have to say with the Director, Jose Escarano, he's really hit the ground running. We just did at Symphony Hall, I believe it was yesterday, with Bob Bolduc, career pathways. And we had a nice representation, High School of Commerce, High School of Science Technology, Central High School. Dean Tech came out of Holyoke, and the speakers were outstanding. Sergeant Damian Howard, who's a High School of Commerce graduate. From the military, you had Shirley Arriaga, Sergeant, she's Air Force, she spoke, and State Police Sergeant Luis Rodriguez, again, who spoke very genuine, humble beginnings, all of them, and heartfelt about the careers. And Jose is partnered with, through the superintendent, Mr. Bolduc. They're going to have different career paths that'll be offered periodically. So that's part of strategic and the outreach plan that's going on too. But great speakers, and it really resonated to the students that were there that these individuals came from very humble beginnings but worked hard, and now are leaders in our military, and with Shirley Arriaga, most likely a state representative in Chicopee. So that's just a sidelight, Barbara, that occurred yesterday. Any other
I
questions?
have a question.
Yes,
I
Ms.
have a
Naylor.
question, Mr. Mayor. With the mental health things, I'm really happy about the direction that we've gone and with the funding that we've been able to secure to really make sure that a lot more access has been provided to our students. But what are we doing around teacher mental health and self-care and staff who have to manage our kids as well as our administrators to make sure that they also are not necessarily just a therapeutic part that might probably be a benefit as an employee, but what are we doing around those kinds of efforts?
Superintendent Warwick?
Yeah,
I could.
go ahead, Paul.
Paul?
No, I was just going to say it's reflected in the plan in the Empower Educator strategy. We actually have an initiative under staff and educator well-being, and Dr. Yolanda Johnson is doing some thinking and leading up that work. And she and I were just talking about this yesterday in terms of what are the activities we can do to support and think about how to support the well-being needs of our staff.
Thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of as y'all know, I'm in a conference down here in Memphis, Tennessee, talking about equity, and there's a lot of conversation around not just how do we support our families and our students, but also our staff, our leadership, because it is something that we've all been traumatized through a pandemic in many different ways, and I don't think yet that we've all unpacked what that has been for us. We've all been in survival mode in that way. So I think some of the things that we're seeing across the news or the nation has also reflected that. And so any way that we can continue to support our staff is super important.
No, that's important.
Thank you.
Important point, Ms. Naylor, and thank you for being down at the conference in Memphis down there, the music capital or the country music capital of the world. And, I know on the city side, I know the superintendent has here, we have the EAP. There's always the Employee Assistance Program. It's been around for a long time, but school committee members pointed out the pandemic, or this COVID-19 pandemic, has really exacerbated the mental health situation tenfold. And as Mr. Foster indicated, many a times Western Mass is left by the wayside. We don't have enough beds here. We do not have enough beds or treatment aspects for mental health. We continue to advocate on the state and federal level, but I know Superintendent Warwick, the budgets have been beefed up with each school, and your point is well taken that it takes a toll on everybody from student to adult. Any other questions or comments? Attorney Murphy?
Just thank you, Mayor. And I want to just echo Ms. Naylor's comments. I mean, I think that mental health is something that's been underserved for decades, as you just alluded to, and it was clearly exacerbated by COVID. I was thinking about our kids, but Ms. Naylor brings up a good point. It also affects our teachers and our employees. So I think it's, there's not one among us who doesn't have a friend, a family member, a loved one who has struggled with mental illness. And, I think we need to make sure we put the resources that we have and that we should use towards our kids and as Mr. Foster said, and Ms. Naylor said, our teachers and our employees.
Thank you, Attorney Murphy. By the way, Attorney Murphy, you look very sharp tonight in that three-piece suit, too. Any other questions or comments pertaining to the strategic plan update? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to reports of standing committees. Student Relation, Parent Concerns, Ms. Gresham.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Gresham. B is Buildings Maintenance Committee, Vice Chair Collins.
Actually, we've had some programs, will be more coming forward that have been accepted by the state for
That's right.
for our rehab, so that was good news.
There have been a number of them that, crossed my desk on continued rehabilitation and improvements of our schools, and hopefully we're going to have some other.
Thank you, MSBA. They've
That's
been
right.
very good to Springfield.
MSBA has been outstanding. Thank you, Vice Chair Collins. Any questions or comments of Vice Chair Collins? Okay, C is Legislative and Contracts Committee. Again, Josiah Gonzalez wishing you good health and speedy recovery. He sends his regrets. D is Curriculum Programs Committee. Ms. Hurst.
No report at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you, and I hope your son feels better. E is Budget and Finance Committee. Vice Chair Collins.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Chair Collins. F is Vocational Education Committee. Attorney Murphy.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you, Attorney Murphy. G is Technology Committee. Ms. Monroe Naylor.
No report at this time, sir.
Thank you very much. H is School Safety Committee. Ms. Gresham.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And I is Diversity, Equity, Inclusion. And again, Mr. Gonzalez is recovering and sends his regrets. He'll be back in the saddle soon. Now we'll move to Student Representative of the School Committee. Ariani Cruz. Ariani, are you on from Central? We have a triple threat with 3 representing Central, and Ariani Cruz is October through December. Say again, Ariani, are you on? No, it was on the first meeting. Okay, thank you. We look forward again to your report next meeting. Report of the superintendent. Superintendent Warwick, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So looking at the recent data, our attendance info that we have recently is we're up 1.1% over last year in attendance and up to 91.3%, which is much better than last year, but we're not back to normal yet, so we're still in that recovery mode. But the attendance is moving in the right direction. The chronic absenteeism is moving in the right direction, but again, we're not clearly fully recovered relative to that, and we're still, dealing with that. Put an article in your packet on Henry Clay. Henry Clay was a longtime employee in the Springfield Public Schools, 40 years.
Great guy.
Was really a unique person that it was a pleasure to work with, and one of the best people I ever had the pleasure to work with. But he was a teacher. He was an assistant principal. He ended out as our phys ed and health director. He had a battle with cancer that went on for like 45 years, and he beat it several times. And it just came back and got him this week. So our thoughts and prayers go out to Henry and his family. He was also served his country and stayed in the reserves and he flew jets. He was a pilot in the Navy Reserve. So Henry was a real hero to many, many people. And at one time, his father was the acting mayor of the city of Springfield, the former city council.
Henry was a great athlete, Hall of Fame athlete at the High School of Commerce, and my dad cut his hair for years, years and years, as with Dan Walsh too, but great, dedicated to the students and city, great guy.
And he was in our Sports Hall of Fame, and that goes back to his Commerce playing days. But there'll be funeral services, and that'll be posted soon. We had good news from the MSBA yet again. Our accelerated repair projects are going forward. New windows for Balliet School, new windows for the Glickman School, a new boiler for Central High School, and we're in the study stage on boilers for Milton Bradley and Rebecca Johnson schools. So keep moving those accelerated repair programs forward, because that building maintenance piece is as important as building the new schools, because our average building is 55 years old. And we've had more accelerated repair projects than anyone else in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So congratulations to the team on that. Peter Garvey, Pat Sullivan, Pat Roach, the entire team that puts the effort into making sure we're pushing these projects forward, because they make a big difference in our schools. There was a recent release of the National Assessment of Educational Progress, and that's the national test taken in all the states, and the results were similar to what we saw in Massachusetts. If you compare the results this year back to 2019, there's learning loss and a decline that's gone on. That was very clear and presents the challenge as we move forward. How do we make up for that learning loss? The good news for Massachusetts is still number 1 in the country, or in the top 2 or 3 in every category. So overall, Massachusetts did very well. But again, that decline we saw with MCAS across the Commonwealth and in Springfield also occurred nationally. on the NAEP tests. But again, the good news for Massachusetts is we're still right at the top of the country. And that concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Superintendent Warwick. Any questions or comments on Superintendent's report?
Just on the
I'll go Ms. Gresham and Vice Chair Collins.
We have that in our packet, that report.
The National Association assessment, we can get that report for you. We don't get sent that report or anything. I was just reading a summary of it.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
because I thought usually we get your report in the packet. No?
On the national assessment, no, I don't have a report on it. I was just reading a review of it.
Oh, okay.
We don't get a report on it. They just issue national findings.
Okay. But you forward it to us?
Whatever I can get.
Yes.
All I read was a newspaper article.
Okay, all right, yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Gresham. Vice Chair Collins?
One of the things in the national assessment, forget that Massachusetts scored highest because we always do, but it pointed out that what we determined as our subgroups lost more significantly during COVID, much worse than we did here.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that the gap widened between the subgroups and the whole, where that didn't happen. So that is really the best news, I think, for Massachusetts is not that we're on top of the list, but we were able to not have our subgroups slip back like the rest of the country.
Yeah, I believe last meeting we showed that we actually made gains on the state.
Our subgroups have narrowed the gaps with the state or exceeded the state. So our subgroup piece was really the strength of our whole report. But the subgroups got hit hardest nationally, and that is an absolute fact, and across Massachusetts. And students in English language learner programs, special ed programs, were the ones who really got hit the hardest because they need that direct support and instruction. And it's going to take years for us to make up for that and get back on track with it. And that's what's going on everywhere in the country and across the state as well.
Ms. Hurst, I think if you're done, Vice Chair Collins?
Yep.
Yeah, I was just going to ask a question because I was hoping to gain a better understanding of does the NAEP and the MCAS build off one another? Are they? I understand that they're two separate. I don't want to say exams, but two separate tests. And so I guess I'm just wondering, what, if anything, is there any correlation? And I ask that because we know that we just finished advocating to have the commissioner rethink the increasing of the MCAS scores. And so I'm just wondering, if anything, is there any sort of relation? I too read that article. I think it was in yesterday's paper or the day before, and read the commissioner's comments on, strengthening their roles in public schools. And so I just wondered, for those of us who aren't familiar with the details of those exams, what, if anything, is there a relationship to that?
So Massachusetts, the states have the right to come up with their own test, and they actually have a mandate to come up with their own test. So every state has its own test. So Massachusetts happened to deliver the MCAS test. The NAEP test is a national test. It doesn't relate necessarily to our standards and our curriculum in Massachusetts. I mean, there's an overall relationship, but not a direct correlation. So they're two different assessments. They're not tied together. The states do not look at the NAEP and come up with the standards and then come up with the testing items. So they are two different tests. I think the tie there would be that our kids, because Massachusetts standards are so aligned and so rigorous, have done exceedingly well on the NAEP test. But it's not intended to test our standards and our curriculum like MCAS is. And the two don't directly relate.
Thank you, Ms. Hurst.
Now, I would imagine students who fare well on the NAEP are also faring well on the MCAS. They're just not identical tests.
Thank you, Ms. Hurst. Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing no unfinished business, hearing none new business. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Vice Chair Collins, or second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Gresham. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Monroe-Naylor?
Yes.
Attorney Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez? Absent, Ms. Gresham?
Yes.
Ms. Hurst? Ms. Hurst?
Yes, sorry, I couldn't unmute fast enough.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mayor Sarno?
Yes, more than sufficient vote. This matter passes, and we wish everybody a safe and sound Halloween. And please, on our website, city websites, there's safety tips there from the police department, and also numerous community Halloween events that we have, whether the United Way, the Springfield Together at the Oaks, some neighborhood events that families and children are more than participate. There's a number of them there, but thank you for watching. Good health and good evening.
Chris, I like that